This is the real Jurassic Park. Welcome to my channel. On June 11, 1993, Jurassic Park was released in theaters worldwide. The film brought dinosaurs back to life through special effects and instantly captured the imaginations of audiences everywhere. At the same time, paleontologists watched with a mix of fascination and dread as their long-dead charges stomped across the big screen. But it wasn't just the movie that had them worried. It was the science behind it, too. Here at C-Show, we love exploring the science of pop culture. So let's dig into the science behind Jurassic Park and see how much of it really happened. In the movie, the main character, paleontologist Alan Grant, is called in by the park's creator, John Hammond, to check out his new attraction. The park is located off the coast of Central America, specifically Costa Rica. And though this is fiction, scientists have since found fossils from the late Cretaceous period in nearby Nicaragua. In the film, Hammond built his park by extracting dinosaur DNA from fossilized mosquitoes trapped in amber. This is a reference to a real-life discovery made in 1991, when a paleontologist found preserved mosquitoes in a piece of amber from the Dominican Republic. Now, while they didn't extract any dino DNA from those specimens, they did confirm that blood could be preserved in amber, which is still pretty cool. But the idea of using ancient DNA to bring a dinosaur back to life isn't as far-fetched as you might think. You see, the reason why we haven't found preserved dinosaur DNA is because DNA degrades over time. Even the oldest piece of DNA that has ever been recovered, which comes from a Greenland shark, is only about 2 million years old. Dinosaurs died out about 66 million years ago, so chances of finding preserved dino DNA are essentially zero. But scientists have proposed using genetic engineering to fill in the gaps and bring a dino back to life. In 2007, a team of American and Canadian researchers published a study proposing just such a plan. They suggested that using preserved proteins, they could find the genes that coded for those proteins and then use that information to reconstruct the rest of the genome. Once they had that sequence, they would synthesize the DNA and put it into the genome of a bird, since birds are the closest living relatives to dinosaurs. Then, and here's the part that makes scientists squirm, they would edit the bird's sDNA to remove certain genes that code for feathers and other bird-specific traits and replace them with dinosaur DNA. Their goal was to recreate an ostrich-like dinosaur called a velociraptor. While this proposal was met with a lot of criticism, it's not impossible that one day it will become a reality. Of course, Jurassic Park took a slightly different approach. Instead of filling in the blanks of a genome, the scientists in the movie spliced together random bits of dino DNA with the DNA of other animals. But there are problems with this approach. For one thing, every animal has its own unique genome, even individuals of the same species. So the scientists in the movie wouldn't have been able to use just any animal DNA to fill in the gaps. They would have needed to find another dinosaur genome to use as a template. But more importantly, DNA doesn't last for millions of years, so it can't just be lying around. So if they couldn't use a dinosaur genome, where would they get the necessary genetic information? Well, maybe they could use an Archaeopteryx. An Archaeopteryx is a 150 million-year-old animal that's a transitional fossil between dinosaurs and birds. So it's technically not a bird, but it has a bunch of bird-like features like feathers and wings. If the Jurassic Park scientists used the genome of an Archaeopteryx as a template and then changed a few genes to make it look more like a velociraptor, they might just have created a real-life Jurassic Park. Now, this may sound like science fiction, but scientists have actually done something similar in the past. In 2015, researchers successfully edited the DNA of a chicken embryo to give it teeth, claws, and a beak like a dinosaur. Now, this wasn't exactly a Jurassic Park moment, since it's just a new version of an animal that already exists. But it's still pretty close. And it shows that it is possible to use genetic engineering to bring extinct animals back to life. As for cloning dinosaurs, scientists are working on it. In the movie, Jurassic Park scientists clone a Brachiosaurus by extracting DNA from a mosquito and inserting it into a frog oocyte. Sounds kind of familiar? Well, that's because it's based on real-life experiments conducted in the early 1990s. Scientists were able to clone the first mammal, a sheep named Dolly, in 1996. The process involved taking the nucleus of a cell from a sheep's udder and inserting it into an unfertilized egg cell from another sheep. That egg was then implanted into a surrogate mother who gave birth to Dolly, the first mammal to ever be cloned from an adult cell. While this experiment proved that cloning was possible, it also raised a number of ethical concerns. So it's unlikely that we'll ever see a dinosaur clone. Now, in the movie, the velociraptors are portrayed as vicious killing machines, but in real life, they were probably more like turkeys. See, in the movie, they run around the park at 40 miles per hour, which is around 64 kilometers per hour. But according to paleontologists, that's way too fast for a raptor to run without collapsing from exhaustion. Plus, the raptors in the movie are huge, growing up to 18 feet long and weighing nearly 2 tons. But fossils tell us that they were closer to the size of a large dog. So clearly, the filmmakers took some creative liberties. Okay, so what about the rest of the park? Is there any truth to the science behind the fictional Jurassic Park? Well, let's start with the most iconic dinosaur in the park, the Tyrannosaurus Rex. The T-Rex is known for its massive jaws and sharp teeth, which it used to chomp down on prey. But did you know that T-Rex had surprisingly small arms? In the movie, the T-Rex uses its tiny arms to great effect, knocking over a Jeep with ease. But in real life, its arms were even smaller than in the movie. Some scientists speculate that the T-Rex evolved its tiny arms as a way to conserve energy. Others say they were used for attracting mates or for holding on to prey. Whatever the reason, the T-Rex's tiny arms are definitely one of its most distinguishing features. And speaking of distinctive features, the next dinosaur on our list has got to be the Brachiosaurus. This enormous plant-eating dinosaur was one of the largest animals to ever live. In the movie, the Brachiosaurus seems almost alien-like as it towers over the other dinosaurs and gazes up at the sky. But in real life, the Brachiosaurus was much closer to the ground. In fact, it was about the same height as a giraffe. Another dinosaur that looks very different in real life than in the movie is the Triceratops. In the movie, the Triceratops is shown with 3 horns on its head, but in real life it only had 2 horns. The third bump on its head was actually a bony frill that protected its neck. So what about the park itself? In the movie, the park is located on a remote island off the coast of Costa Rica. But in real life, there's no place quite like it. There are plenty of places in Costa Rica where you can see dinosaurs, but not in the way that you might expect. In 2018, for example, paleontologists discovered the fossil of a long-necked dinosaur in the country. The dinosaur was a titanosaur, a type of sauropod that lived during the late Cretaceous period. It was about 40 feet long and weighed nearly 10 tons. It was also the largest animal to ever live in Central America. So while you won't find a Jurassic Park in Costa Rica, you will find plenty of fossils to keep you company. In the end, Jurassic Park was both a blockbuster movie and a scientific triumph. It showed the world what was possible when science and technology came together. And it inspired a generation of young people to pursue careers in STEM fields. So the next time you watch the movie, remember that there is a lot of science behind the fiction. So, what do you think? Do you believe that dinosaurs could be brought back to life? Let me know in the comments below. And thanks for watching.